Welcome to Lake County Schools Ed Talks, a podcast about all the exciting things going on in our district. Sponsored by Addition Financial Credit Union.
Welcome to Lake County Schools Ed Talks, our monthly podcast that takes a deeper dive into the school and district news of the day. I'm Sherry Owens, your host, and today we have as our guest Shannon Smith, who is helping to spread the word around the state about Florida prepaid plans that can help make it easier for families to save for college and other options once students leave high school. We're talking about this because open enrollment for Florida prepaid is taking place right now through April 30th. So this is a perfect time to learn about the plan, to enroll, and to lock in 2023 plan pricing. So Florida prepaid plans have been around for more than 30 years, but we have some young parents with some very young students, and they may not be familiar with it. So can you give us an overview of what Florida prepaid is all about? And then we can talk a little more in depth about how it works.
Sure. So Florida prepaid is the largest and the longest running prepaid college program in the nation, actually. And what this allows families to do is to basically pick a plan. We have 5 different plans, and then we have a dorm plan. You pick a plan, and then you're essentially locking in today's prices for those plans with the guarantee that they will cover future tuition. So it's essentially a way to make yourself inflation proof when it comes to college tuition, because no matter how much tuition actually goes up between now and when your child attends college or vocational school or university, the guarantee from Florida prepaid and the state of Florida is that we will cover the difference between what your price is today and what tuition actually is. So it's a way for families to basically set it and forget it. You can pick a monthly payment plan. Most people choose to do it over the course of the child's school years. There is a 5-year payment option and there's a lump sum option. But when you do it monthly, you basically set that up in your budget. It's never going to go up. So our newborn plans, for example, start at $45 a month. It is going to be $45 a month every single month until they're 18, right? Until they graduate high school. So it's nice, especially nowadays when it feels like everything else is going up, to know that there is this one thing, that you can budget for, and it's going to stay steady. It's never going to be more than what it is today. And it is, I think, for families also a way to at least start saving something. There's obviously lots of different plan options. We have a university plan, a college-based plan, 4 years, 1 year, 2+2. You may not be able to afford all 4 years, but it is something to be able to start 1 year of university or 2 years of college, because you're at least paying for some of their education. And that's money that they don't have to borrow later on, which is pretty important.
So Shannon, I've got some knowledge about this, personal knowledge, because we started a Florida prepaid plan for our daughter when she was about 2 or 3. She's 31 now. And so it was a big help for us. We were told back then that the earlier you start, the better. Why is that? And also, is there an age limit for when you can open a plan for a student?
Great question. So number one, the child has to be born to start their plan. So, if you had a child or a grandchild that was born today, you can basically set up their plan starting, tomorrow. And then the cutoff for Florida prepaid is 11th grade. Now, it is better to start saving early because I mentioned that you can basically pick a plan. The plan has a set price. If you're dividing that out over monthly payments, the more months you have, the more affordable the monthly payments are. So the longer you wait, the shorter the runway you have to save. And so, that's the difference between, for example, a newborn plan, starts at like $45 a month for the 1-year university plan. If you're doing it when they're in kindergarten, it's going to probably look more like that $50 to $60 range. We actually have a pricing calculator that's great at myfloridaprepaid.com. You can go there and enter the birth date of your child, children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and it'll tell you based on their age exactly how much each of those 5 tuition plans and the dorm plan would cost. And, it's interesting to kind of play around with that too. Like if you have an older child versus a newer child, younger, you can sort of see it becomes a little more expensive because you have less time to save. The other thing I like to stress as well is that I mean, listen, I have two boys. We actually just had our first grandbaby. He's 7 weeks old, 8. Yeah, I think he's goes by so fast already. I think he's actually just hit 8 weeks. So, the days are long and the years are short, right? Isn't that what they say? And that really is true. I mean, you have a kindergartner maybe in Lake County schools and you're thinking, oh, well, college is so far off, but it will go by so fast. And the problem is if you wait until they're in high school and you're looking at, oh, in 3 or 4 years, we've got to shell out, $10,000 for tuition or 20. I mean, Florida colleges and universities are actually some of the most affordable in the nation. We're about I think I read yesterday that the national average for public tuition is $20,000 a year. Okay. Wow. In Florida, it's under 7,000. So we have a great value here, but still, if you're looking at a high schooler and you're like, wow, 7,000 times 4, $28,000 to send them to college, and we haven't been saving anything. Right. That gets real stressful. And so what's nice about saving early is that, like you did, right? You just set it up and it just became part of your monthly budget. Or if you did a lump sum, it just became part of what you knew you were going to do versus waiting. I mean, procrastination, of course, in all things is never great. And so the earlier you save it, it does become more affordable. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned something that rang a bell for me. That same daughter that I told you about, well, now she's expecting my first grandchild. So I have a question about that. Thank you so much. Thank you. So who can open one of these accounts? Does it have to be the parent or guardian? Can it be a grandparent?
It can be a grandparent. It can be an aunt. It could be a godparent, as long as they know the beneficiary's social security number and the family, knows that that's happening. It can be done. So for example, I'm now, 8 weeks into being a grandma. So we're going to set up a 1-year university plan for Zai. So what that will allow us to do is that's 1 year of university. It covers 30 credit hours. Okay. At a university. He can use that if he wants to for a college. It's actually going to go further because the tuition cost at a college is a bit less, right, in Florida than a university. But here's the nice thing is that the 1-year university plan, it's our newest plan. We've had it for about 7 or 8 years. It allows multiple people to each buy a year of university toward the same child. So if your grandbaby has other sets of grandparents or great grandparents or aunts and uncles, they can all buy 1 year and it's going to cost you like $45 a month, which is super affordable. And now you're basically setting up so that baby has, anywhere from 1 to 4 years, depending on what you do. You could even do a 2-year college plus 2 1-year universities. I mean, there's a lot of different options, but grandparent, we encourage that because it's like, listen, you can buy them all the Lego sets, you can buy them everything. And the thing is, those are great and there's room for those. But the other thing is that there is something about knowing that you have given a child that gift, which is so powerful. And you know it because your daughter did it. And what's cool about this program is that we've been around now for about 35 years. So we're actually now starting to see that generational impact of like your daughter had it, now your child's going to have it. And so that's so powerful. And I think too, that part of why we're starting to see so many multiple generations doing it is because once you've had it as a college student, like that alleviated so much stress. You didn't have to worry about working as much through college. You didn't have to take out a bunch of loans. Right. If you got a scholarship in addition to your prepaid plan, now you're really set up. And so if you went through that, you want that for your own child, and so it's really cool to see that happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I've actually put 2 children through college. And so I know that tuition is the main focus when we talk about expenses, but there is so much more. There are lots of fees. There's dormitory costs. There are food plans. There's books. What does a Florida prepaid plan cover? All of that. Yeah. What does it cover?
So good question. So the prepaid plans cover the tuition and fees. Okay. So that's basically your per credit, what you're paying for your actual tuition. But you raise a good point. The cost of college is those other things. And we do like to remind families of that. Now, we offer a Florida prepaid 5-9 savings plan. So that is a more traditional, and there are others out there, but we offer one. It's actually Morningstar rated. It's very well rated, very low fees, great options for different types of investments. That is an investment-based plan. It's almost like you set it up. You can put in what you can when you can. Relatives and friends can contribute to it as gifts. And the goal of that is to just grow the money over time, right? The more you put in consistently, it could be $25 a month put in consistently can grow to about $8,000 or $9,000 over the course of a child's, school years, which is great. And to your point, they could have a prepaid plan covering tuition, and then they could have that 529 savings plan covering the other expenses. Both plans, worth noting, are tax-free savings, right? If you are listening to this right now and you're like, well, I have our stuff in a bank account, that is not tax-free savings, number one. Number two, you're not locking in tuition prices, so you don't actually know potentially if you're saving enough. Right now we have lawmakers that are keeping tuition pretty low, but who knows what happens in 10 years, right? If you lock in a prepaid plan today, you don't have to worry about it because you know it's going to be enough. And so that's one scenario, is that you would have both, right? You have your prepaid plan where you're putting that monthly, it's maybe automatic withdrawal, easy to do. Then you have that 529 savings plan that you set up. There's no cost to set it up. There's no required monthly contribution, but it can sit there and you can add to it if you get a bonus at work and you want to do it. If the child has a birthday and you say, listen, we have enough toys, please contribute to that instead. So you can do that. The other thing that tends to happen too is if you have a prepaid plan, right? But we see a lot of students who go to college, they've been rock stars and they qualify for Bright Futures.
Yeah.
In addition to maybe other scholarships.
Right.
When that happens, they end up getting back a reimbursement check every semester of whatever was not used in either their prepaid or their Bright Futures. And they can choose kind of which one pays out first. Okay. And so that is great because, to your point, then you can use that money, which we see all the time, for books, meal plans, right? And all the other expenses. We also see some students, if they still have that 529 savings plan open, and maybe they know, like, I'm going to go to grad school. And so they just take that money they get back every semester and they put it into that 529 savings plan, and then they can use it, for ongoing. So lots of options, but, to your point, it's important to understand what all the college costs are. And it isn't just tuition, but certainly having tuition covered at least helps, right?
It does. It does. Now, what happens if parents or grandparents start a plan for a student and then the student decides to go to the military or to go straight into the workforce? Do the families lose the money?
No, that is the other thing. You can never lose what you put in. So a few scenarios, including military, and I don't use it at all. If they go to the military, you actually have 10 years from the time of high school graduation until 10 years forward to use your prepaid plan. So if they were to go to the military and then maybe get out in 4 or 5 years, they could use the plan then if they wanted to. Okay. Now they may have a scenario where the military is paying for their education, which is awesome.
Right.
If you don't use your plan, or there's any portion of it, for example, that you don't need to use, maybe you had a 4-year university, but you went to a college where they covered 2 years of your tuition. So you only needed 2 years. Well, you would get a refund of whatever isn't used, right, from that plan. If the child doesn't go to college at all, I always joke, I say, well, you get the refund of everything you saved, and then you go on a vacation because you worked really hard to save all that money.
I like that.
But, you have options, obviously. A couple of other scenarios, you can also transfer the funds to another beneficiary. So you could have a case where maybe you've got a child and the oldest is 8 years older than the next child, that you save for them. They end up getting a full ride and they don't need it, right? You could transfer the money from that prepaid plan to that. And what else? You can also, if you don't, you say we get a lot. What if I don't use it in Florida? How do I know that they're going to want to go to school in Florida? Prepaid plans are built for all the what ifs. You can use the value of your prepaid plan nationwide. Go to a private school outside Florida, a public institution outside Florida. You can also use it for trade and technical schools, which, listen, those are high demand fields right now. I came out of college as a journalist. Okay. I was probably making about half of what some of these, vocational graduates are coming out with, because they're in high demand fields that pay well.
Right.
So there are a lot of options. What would happen if you end up using it not at a college or university in Florida is that the value of your prepaid plan stays intact. So that means that we would send to those other institutions what we would have sent to a Florida college or university, right? Okay. Now, does this mean, well, if you're paying out of state tuition, it's not going to go as far, but the point is you haven't lost that value, right? It's still there. You can still use your prepaid plan outside of those 28 colleges and 12 universities.
Got it. And we hope this never happens. We hope this never happens, but sometimes, life just takes a turn and we have to make some hard choices about expenses. If a parent can no longer afford to make payments on a plan, can they cancel and withdraw the funds early if they have to?
They can always cancel if that ever happens. And then if they do that, they're going to get back whatever they have paid in up to that point, right? I always tell people, if that's going to happen, look at the tax implications, right? Would it make sense, for example, because sometimes I think with the prepaid plan, obviously you're committing to a monthly payment. If it gets to the point where a family can't make that monthly payment on a prepaid plan, it may be that the 529 savings plan that we offer is a better fit, because you could roll the money, move it into a 529 savings plan, right? And then you are not obligated to a monthly payment. You put in what you can when you can. Mm-hmm. Because our message to families is this, saving something is better than nothing. If the 1-year university plan works for your budget, but the 4-year university plan doesn't, the answer is not to not save at all. Right, the answer is to save what you can. You can always, add on later. If you have to stop paying and choose a different way to save, that's okay too. Circumstances change. We understand that. But, it's so interesting. And I think you'll appreciate this as an educator. There's research that shows even if a child has as little as $500 saved for their college, they are 2.5 times more likely to enroll in college and graduate. Wow. And I think that speaks to the power of belief, and the power of setting the bar higher, of a family saying to a child, we believe in you. We're saving for your college, right? And I think so it's like this intangible, powerful benefit that I love about Florida Prepaid. And I think that there is a lot of value in that.
Well, I agree. And the one takeaway, well, there's so many great takeaways, but one is that there is lots of flexibility here, and families have many, many options to help ensure that their children can pursue their dreams beyond high school. We mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that this is open enrollment season. What do parents need to know about that?
So open enrollment is the time each year. It starts February 1. It ends April 30th. And this is when we announce the prices for this open enrollment window. And this is the last chance until 2024 to lock in today's prices for future tuition. And so the plan prices, again, they start at about $45. They start at $45 a month. They go up to a starting rate of like $181 for that 4-year university plan. And there are prices all in between. So we encourage families to take some time between now and April 30th, use the pricing calculator that we talked about at myfloridaprepaid.com, see what works for your budget, and then just make a decision, right? Because you can always wait, but the more you wait, the more it does end up costing and the more stress that it causes. And again, I think it sends just a really powerful message to a child when you start saving early for their college.
Well, we've made it pretty easy for families to find the information that they need. If they want to get more details about the plans, if they want to enroll, families can find links to that information on the district's website at lake.k12.fl.us and also on our social media pages. We've been sharing information all month about Florida Prepaid, and we'll continue to do so throughout the open enrollment period. Families can also go straight to myfloridaprepaid.com for more details and to enroll. Thank you so much for joining us, Shannon. And thank you to all of our listeners as well. And hope that you will come back and join us next time on Lake County Schools Ed Talks.
Lake County Schools Ed Talks is a production of the Lake County Schools Communications Department, made possible in part by Addition Financial. Please join us again soon.